Hi, I'm Mash Ponigala, brand strategist at Spellbrand. In today's video, we're talking about how to ask for a sale properly. And the reason I say properly is because if you go online and you're researching this topic and you're trying to learn how to ask for a sale, you'll find tons of articles and videos talking about sales tactics. These are ways of asking for a sale. But what I find frustrating is that most of them come off very manipulative, aggressive, and really self-serving. Now, at the end of the day, a sale is self-serving. I know that. And consumers know that, of course. You're dealing with someone, a consumer is dealing with someone, and as they go through that sales process, they know that either eventually or even at that moment, the salesperson or the one that they're having a chat with is going to ask for the sale, or rather, they know that there is a step. So already they're making up their minds. They're already deciding whether they're going to buy or not. Or sometimes they probably don't even know whether they're going to buy or not, right? Because they are not through the sales journey yet, or a buyer's journey yet. So yesterday I was doing a video on sales funnel and what a sales funnel is and how a buyer's journey is critical and fundamental to the sales process or the sales funnel. Without understanding the buyer's journey, your sales process or your sales funnel will not be effective. So, how do you really ask for a sale? Well, there is no right or wrong way, but there is, of course, a cardinal and fundamental kind of rule that if you sort of take into consideration, then you will be better off in terms of your results. And that is, you need to be always aware of the client's good goodwill, so to speak. That means you should care about your customer. Now, of course, in this world of sales quotas and sales figures, commissions, it's a hard thing, and I know that. If you are working in a situation where you're competing for sales, you're competing against other team members, or you are on a deadline and you need to meet some sales figures, then you will be desperate, right? And you will be pushing hard. And yes, it might have worked in the past, it's probably working now, and it will probably work in the future. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about entrepreneurs, business owners who do not have those kind of deadlines or pressures. Of course, everyone needs money. Everyone needs, especially in terms of business, you need customers, you need revenue, you need cash flow, so on and so forth. But if you start from a position of caring for the customer, and whether at that moment does the customer really need this service or product, or is the customer ready? Where are they in terms of the journey? Now, as I was discussing in the previous video, you have several phases for the buyer's journey, right? So in the first phase, they're aware of their problem. So they realize that they need something, right? Let's take an example. Let's say that I am a buyer and you sell digital cameras or DSLRs or whatever, right? And I am the buyer, and my journey starts in the awareness phase where I realize that I have an upcoming kind of, I don't know, family wedding in Italy, right? And I've been invited to the family wedding in Italy, and that would be an opportunity for me to take some great photographs, not only of the wedding, but also of family members, of beautiful Italian kind of landscape. Let's say this was in Tuscany, right? So then I realized that, okay, hang on, the camera that I have is probably about 10 years old, and it's old technology, it's low resolution. And the other one is my iPhone, which is pretty good, but is not really a camera, so to speak, right? And let's assume that I already have passion for taking photographs. I'm not a photographer, but I love taking photographs. So the awareness is when I realize, okay, I need a DSLR, right? I need something better than what I have. and that's going to then make my trip better. So do you see that awareness arises out of my kind of desire for something else? It's not the camera, it's for something else. So in the awareness stage, as a buyer, I'm thinking that I need this camera so that my trip would be better and the memories would be better, and maybe even that my family members or my friends would take a look at my photographs and they would be impressed. So these are all self-centered kind of viewpoints, desires. So that's the awareness stage. Then I start looking around. I go and say, okay, what budget do I have? See, I would have already had a budget in mind, or rather, I know what I can afford. Of course, if I was reckless and I had a credit card or whatever, I would say, okay, I would just jump in and say, let me try and get the best out there. Now, you might ask me, why is that reckless? That's a whole different ball game. But you need to know that, because when you're trying to understand your buyers, you need to know if your buyers are motivated by impulse buying, or are they a calculated bunch? And each market segment would have a different kind of perspective when it comes to buyers. But in this case, let's assume that I already have a budget. So because of the upcoming trip, I need to buy tickets and I need to buy a gift, and I need money to spend there in Italy after the wedding, before the wedding, to go around, maybe hire a car, all that, right? So I need a budget for that. And therefore, my budget for the camera, I don't want to really go crazy on it. So I don't know, maybe under $1,000 if I can, right? And maybe I do have a little bit of knowledge from the past. Maybe I was reading, I heard somewhere that you could get a decent DSLR for under $1,000. So that's it. So I start searching online. Now, that is the interest phase. So awareness, interest phase. In terms of interest phase, this is where you can actually start your kind of sales funnel, right? So interest phase is a very good phase where you are generating some content that's going to feed your prospect with information, right? Then you have the evaluation phase, where the evaluation phase is where I would have already now looked at a few different kind of possibilities, and I'm thinking, do I go for the Fujifilm ecosystem or do I go for Canon? These are the two ones. I've already rejected Sony, maybe I've already rejected Nikon, and whatever other options are out there. And I'm thinking, okay, so that's the evaluation phase. And then there is the decision phase. The decision phase is where I say, okay, I've made up my mind, right? So I'm going for the Fujifilm, and I've already, during evaluation phase, I would have already sort of looked at, and of course, that's where you enter and your sale actually begins, in the evaluation phase, right? So that's where you convince. And I'll tell you how to ask for the sale, but let's just go through this buyer's journey quickly. Then you have the decision phase where they make up their mind. They then have 3 or 4 different options where they can buy this product. It's the same for a service, and now they just need to pull the trigger. Then you have the purchase phase where they pull the trigger, right? And there's also a repurchase phase, but that is more for for products that buyers would buy repeatedly. Now this could be, of course, I don't know, lenses or whatever. So they can come back to you for additional stuff, add-ons and things like that. So as you saw in the buyer's journey, there are different phases, and if you don't have a sales funnel, if you don't have a sales process for each of these phases, then what happens is you're only looking at the end result, which is somebody should buy the camera, right? So when I approach your website, if it's or your social or your sales messages and all that, if I approach them, social media channels, in the awareness or interest or evaluation phases, then I'm going to be put off. I'm going to be your brand, your message, your sales process will not endear to me, right? Because you're not educating me. You're not providing any value to me. So that is the first thing. You need to consider that before you even think of your sales process. But let's just cut to the chase and talk about asking for the sale. So this is in the evaluation phase and or even in the decision phase. Now, typically on websites, what you would have is the call to actions, right? The CTAs. Now, most businesses, most brands don't have effective call to actions. Yeah, they have a buy now button or a prices page or a shop, and that's about it. And this is more so for services. And that's because I run a couple of different service-based companies, and I've seen this, and I've worked with a lot of clients coming up with a strategy and of course tweaking their sales funnel and their call to actions, and then measuring that to see the return on investment, to see which are the best ones for getting that sale. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people are meek about their call to actions. Now, I'm not talking about being aggressive versus meek, but rather meek in the sense ineffective, right? So most call to actions, most CTAs are very meek. What you need to do is come up with a robust system on your website to have a CTA that is spread out. So it's not, so you're not depending on just on the buy now button or click here to, but you're actually creating a whole a silo so that you slowly push your prospect towards the sale. And then the final CTA is, of course, the sale. Now that's about the websites. What about if you're negotiating, right? So let's say you're selling a contract for a web maintenance service. Let's say you're a web maintenance company and your prospects need web maintenance. They need a monthly web maintenance. So you've already built their website. Now you're trying to sell on the web maintenance contract. Let's say the contract is, I don't know, $600 a month or maybe $1,000 a month for at least 6 months contract or maybe 12 months contract. And then the client gets an X number of hours during that time where you do routine maintenance on the website. You probably, if the client has an image he wants to upload or a text that needs to be changed, or he or she, then you would do that, right? Now, the client has already spent some money with you and they've already gotten their website done. At that moment, they probably would not be interested in a contract, and they're thinking, "Oh no, I don't want to commit to a long-term contract." And they're already thinking, "I don't think I won't be putting any stuff onto the website," right? So the way you ask for the sale there is to really talk about the pain points. So you're not really asking for the sale, but you're educating the client on the pain points. And what are these pain points? Maybe you're talking about how the website has to be fresh, at least on a weekly basis, so that Google or the algorithm, the search algorithms would come and index the site, and how Google looks at site freshness, how there needs to be new content so that your client can attract their clients, and how that needs to be done, and ask them a question. Are you in a position to do that? Of course, if you built a CMS for them, then obviously, they have a tool to do that. Ask them, are you comfortable with that? Or would you need help with that? Do you want us to maybe on a weekly basis, add something to your website that is relevant, that is highly targeted to your audience, and that also keeps your website fresh? Or do you have the time to do that? Okay, so you're asking questions to allow your client or your prospect to understand the pain points. And this is the same for if it's a travel company. And let's just go back to the example I gave you before, where I am now booking a trip to go to Italy. So I've already bought my camera and I need to book a trip. Or maybe the flights are booked out, but this is now tours when I am in Italy, right? If you are then a tour operator or a travel agency, and of course these days everything is done online, but this is just for the sake of the example, I'm continuing, then again you need to ask questions. You need to understand your client, because when you're asking questions and the client is looking at the pain points, or the prospect is looking at the pain points and the touch points, and in their mind, they're already buying the solution. And now there's nothing manipulative about it, because they do need it, right? That's where your integrity comes in as a brand. And I am assuming that you are you're a brand with integrity, right? Let's assume that. So you care for your prospect. You want them to maximize their journey, their trip. You want them to have the best time with the best budget possible. So again, if you're working from the perspective of the client should benefit, then your sale becomes easy. Okay, what else? How else would you ask for a sale? Think of always adding value to whatever you're selling, right? So when you're negotiating and your client or the prospect seems to be on the fence, they're not really sure, and they want to maybe shop around, that's fine. I mean, shopping around, you don't want to prevent your prospects from shopping around. That's not the intention. But before they shop around, you need to provide them with all the information that they need to make that decision. So if you feel that they're on the fence, then offer them an added value, right? So on top of the product or the service, add an additional kind of either service point, not giveaways, right? Not gifts. That's, I don't know, in my opinion, they work for certain sectors, they work for certain products, they work for certain industries, but generally, I don't like that sales tactic. I don't know, I think if you're not confident of your service or product, that's when you start adding gifts, right? Not all the time. Now, for example, if you're a perfume shop, right? Then if you're giving away a small, I don't know, teaser or sample face cream or something along with your perfume, or a small bag, vanity kit, something like that, then there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's one of the best kind of giveaway tactics that I've seen, and it works beautifully because it doesn't take away anything from the perfume itself or your shop or your brand, right? It adds value to it. So just like that, with a camera, for example, you could add additional, I don't know, like a memory chip, extra batteries. Those are really good and they won't detract from it. It's not a cheap tactic. Yeah, it could be expensive on your end, but I mean, that's different, right? But what about if you're a travel agent, and what can you add? Well, you could add, I don't know, a kind of a virtual concierge service, right? Maybe you have a system in place where, you could help your client book tickets to the opera, or book tickets to, I don't know, or book restaurants through a concierge system, right? Now, I'm not a tour operator or a travel agent, so I don't know the logistics of that. Maybe I'm talking through my teeth here and it's all bullshit, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? So see what you can add, and then ask for the sale and say, to help you make the decision now, what if I added this? Would you then buy from us? And ask it in a straightforward way. Don't be afraid. Don't feel that there will be a rejection coming, and don't feel that you are maybe undermining your brand. Not at all. If what you're offering is not a trinket that is designed to just manipulate your prospect, then you're fine. You don't need to worry at all. You can also ask other questions, such as if for example the prospect says, well, I don't know, I got to think about it, right? Or I got to talk to my partner. Now, these kind of things, these kind of excuses really mean that that sale is probably not going to happen, in the sense that at least in that moment. So any kind of push that you make at that moment will actually alienate your prospect. So if they say think about it, that's fine. Be detached with the sales process. Let them go. But of course, as they go, you can add a final additional value added, either piece of knowledge, a suggestion, a piece of advice, or even an offer, right? Change an offer. Don't throw additional discounts, right? Don't just say, well, you know what, to help you make up your mind right now, to make you buy now, I'll give you a 10% discount. It might work, but again, it depends on what you're selling, right? If it's a pen, then yeah, if I'm getting a few percentage off, I'll just go for it, right? There, I don't want to shop around. I don't want to. But what if you're buying something bigger, right? What if you're buying a service? What if you're a law firm? Well, okay, that's a whole. We'll do another video on that. That's a different thing. So no, not a law firm. Travel agency is a good idea, or it could be, I don't know, private wealth management, right? If you're into private wealth management, how do you convince that customer to really sign on the dotted line? So now you might be thinking, the title of this video is how to ask for the sale properly. And I'm not listing out any techniques, but that's the whole point, because there are tons of, in fact, there are articles out there that say 50 ways of closing a sale, or all that. So there's enough information out there, and I don't want to add to that noise. What I want to add is really the psychological perspective, the things to think about when you're asking for the sale properly. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, so keep that in mind. Adding value will take you a long way. Keeping in your mind the buyer's journey will enable you to make that sale. And of course, proper CTAs, call to action, which are supported by other elements and not just one single thing. And of course, knowing when to let your prospect go, but go with a good taste in their mouth, so that if they do decide and then they're like thinking, you know what, yeah, it's probably a few bucks cheaper elsewhere, but that guy that I spoke to, or that gal that I spoke to, they seemed to know what they were talking about, and they were giving so much value. They might not say it in that way, but their mind would let them know and say, yeah, I better. So they would feel attracted to you. So attraction marketing is what you need to do. Attraction sales is what you need to do there. Okay, simple concepts, and I spent over 20 minutes talking about it, but that's because I wanted to dwell on the psychological perspective. If you have any questions on this topic, just leave comments below and I will answer them. And I'm going to add a link to an article I wrote a long time about on this topic below this video. Go check it out on our website, spellbrand.com. And till my next video, take care.